Mixing is one of the most critical phases in the process of music production. It can make or break your track. And in this video, I am going to show you my top 5 mistakes people do and how to avoid them. Hey guys, my name is Tati Music, and if you're new to this channel, welcome. And without wasting more time, let's get on it. Mixing is like cooking. Even with the best ingredients, the wrong techniques can ruin the dish. Which takes me to mistake number 1, over compression. Over compression can remove the natural dynamics of your track, making it sound flat or lifeless. Compression is meant to control the dynamics and not to kill them. So how can you see if there's an issue with the compression? Number 1, if the track feels overly squashed or lacks the punch it once had. And the second thing is if all elements are at a similar volume with no variation. And the solution to this, we can use gentle compression. And when I'm talking about gentle compression, I am talking about something that is like 2:1 or 4:1 ratio. A slower attack time will allow transients to come through, preserving the natural dynamics of the sound. And here's an example. This is the loop that we're going to use. It's a simple Afrobeat loop from our Incense Fiction Volume 2. This is the example of how it sounds like without over compression. As you can see that the kick is breathing and that rim or snare is also breathing. Sounds good if you tell me. And then let's open the over compression or the compressor. It sounds squashed, like it sounds in your face, it's clipping, it's just over compressed, guys. Over compressed. This is how you can spot over compression, guys. Some people will even go all out to even playing with the threshold like this. Now you are squashing the kick, you are squashing everything. I've had so many beats with an over compressed kick like this. So this is how you can spot something if it's over compressed. And these are the drums, guys. These are the drums. The drums are not supposed to compete with the vocals, are not supposed to compete with the instruments. So let's try and fix this thing. And this is how I would try fixing this thing. First of all, I would take this thing down, the compression down. I'm using this compressor, guys, because it's a simple way you can understand how compression works. Now let's play. Now it sounds good. The next thing that I would do is play with the attack and release. So remember that we are working on a kick here. Play with the attack. The attack is at fast. Now let's try slow. And then the next thing, I will take down the mix or the input gain to around 5 or 4. Right? And then I will play with the threshold to around 15. Well, let's try 20. Nice. And then the release, let's leave the release at fast because we're working on a kick here. Slow attack, fast release. And then let's try compression. And then let's go for warm, crisp, clean. And then let's play with the compression. Now this is the before and after. Before, after. Before, after. We can even go all the way with just putting the around 2, input level, and then before, after. This is B, this is A. Now, and this is how you can fix your overcompression problem. And mistake number 2 is ignoring the EQ. EQ is fundamental in achieving clarity. Without EQ, your mix will most likely end up sounding muddy, with instruments fighting for the same space in the frequency spectrum. And the best way to see this, if your vocals are buried or competing with your instruments, and if your mix sounds too crowded or lacks separation between elements. And the solution to this can be, you can try to use a high-pass filter on non-bassy instruments to remove unnecessary low end. And you can also use EQ cuts to remove clashing frequencies. For example, cutting around from the 300 to 500 Hz range on guitars or pianos to create space for your vocals. And you can also boost important frequencies. For example, you can boost your vocals at around 2K to 5K Hz range, and that is for presence, guys. And here's an example for this. This is the session from our Branches of Divine Reflection album. So this is the intro song that we did from the intro beat that we did on this channel. If you want to see that, the making of this beat, watch this video. So this is the most quiet moment, and then these are the loudest moments of the beats. As you can tell, that it's so loud and it's impactful and it's just an epic cinematic beat. So this beat wouldn't sound like this without these 3 plugins, as you just heard me telling you about the EQs. So if I were to take these things off, this is how the beat would sound like. Meaning that there wouldn't be any working together between the instrument or between the beat and the vocals. And this is why. As you can tell, it's somehow buried, it's somehow trying to breathe, it's somehow being washed away by the instrument. I'm talking about the vocals. The vocals are somehow being washed away by the instruments. So let's open the first plugin, of which it's this one. And when I'm talking about this, guys, I'm talking about things that you can put on your beat section, since we are working on a song here. So this is the filter program, and this is how it looks like. A simple cut around that 5K, 3K range of frequencies. Now we spoke about the 200 Hz range and the 100 Hz, the 500 Hz range. And this is where the vocals are mostly present on the instrument. So if you can try and play with these things and tweak them so that the vocals can come alive and breathe on a beat, you would have made it in the mixing industry. So let's play with these things. Create a dynamic. Let's see. It's here. It's this bend. Now, there's a sense of relief when you put on this bend at around 200 Hz. In this case, we are making space for the vocals. So if I wanted to make it to even go further with this thing, I would introduce something like a stabilizer to stabilize the beat, like this. As you can see, it's also working drastically on the 300 Hz to around 600 Hz to 1K. In fact, from here, from around 100 and something to 300 to 600, which is what we're just doing here on our EQ on FabFilter Pre-Q3. And if I wanted to go even further with making space for the vocals, I would introduce a track spacer, guys. This one. As you can see, it's also timing the same frequencies, making sure that the vocal stays on top of the beat and making space for the vocals, the backings, and whatever that you would like to put on this track. Now let's talk about poor panning. I've seen this mistake a lot. Panning creates stereo image and helps instruments across left and right. Without proper panning, everything sits in the center, creating a cluttered mix. And this is how you can see the problems if your panning is not in the right place. If your mix sounds narrow and busy, with no clear separations between the elements. And if your elements seem to fight for attention in the center of the stereo film. And the solution to this can be panning your instruments like guitars or backing vocals, percussions, or synths to the sides. For example, you can do like a 30% to 50% left or right and keep critical elements like lead vocals, bass lines, kick drums centered to maintain focus. Use stereo wideners on instruments. I do that all the time on instruments like pads or background vocals to give extra width. And this is the example. Remember that the same ideology that you use on these vocals is the same ideology that you need to think of when you are doing this thing on your beat or somewhere else. So, okay, never mind my bad singing, but this is how it sounds like with the beat on. There's something missing here, which is the panning. When I'm talking about the panning, I am talking about left and right. That is why these vocals are being doubled. So the same thing that is being said here on this line is the same thing that is being said on this line. So as you can see that this one is likely different from others, of which it's panned to the left around 30%, which is what we said to create space. And then also this one, I think, is panned on the right around 30%. So we have some things like this. But then what about these ones? These ones are not panned anywhere. And then that will mean they will clash with the lead vocal. Because there is no separation, guys. There's no separation, and it making it to clash with the vocal, with the main vocal, and also clash with the beat, guys. It sounds weird that way. So in order to fix things like this, guys, we need things like panning to create space, to create a sense of relief from the main vocal, which is this one, and the main beat, which is this one. So the main vocal, guys, the lead vocal needs to always be on the middle. So the better way to use this technique to fix this thing is to use plugins like panning plugins. So my favorite plugin when trying to create a sense of space in panning the vocals from left to right, I like to use the Fruity Stereo Shaper, which is this one. And if you see this thing, it has a right channel and the left channel, meaning that the vocals are now separated from left to right. This is what it sounds like. They are differently out from the middle, creating a space for what? For the lead vocal, like this. And this is how penning works, guys. Penning creates space for other instruments. Penning creates space for other vocals or frequencies in the mix. After. And then if I wanted to bring some volume, I have this Frank Paul inflator, of which it's made out of FL Studio plugins, 100%, stock version made. And to make sure that we tame those highs or those high frequencies, we have something like this. Now, this is another way you can use to make space for your vocals, to make space for your instruments, to make space for your beats, and to make space for your mix. This is another way of using penning, and it works wonders. And then for mistake number 4 is neglecting your reverb and delay. While reverb and delay add depth and space to a mix, so much of either can wash out the sound, making it muddy or distant. And this is how you can spot if there's a problem with your reverb or delay. If your vocals are too far back in your mix and not up front, or instruments blend into each other, and if your mix loses its upfront punchy sound, then you have a problem. And the solution to this can be use short played reverbs on vocals or snares to add a subtle depth. You can also apply delay sparingly, syncing it with the track's tempo. And this is the example. So this is the vocal that is just dry, it has no reverb, and it has no delay. It sounds good, guys. It sounds good. It sounds like right in your face. But to create some movement on this music, let's say that we had a reverb here and we also had those delays here. So let's open all the reverbs that we have here. So we have the first reverb, which is the extra reverb here on this chain here. And we also have a reverb, a whole reverb here. And we have a played reverb here. And we have a short reverb here. And we have a long reverb. And if you tell me this thing is washing away the vocal, this thing is burying away the vocal, and to fix this, you would have to dial in these settings perfectly or accurately in a level where you feel that they are right and they are making the vocal breathe. Let's dial in these reverb settings. We will leave alone this extra one, but we'll focus on the short and long reverb. Nice. Let's continue with the long reverb. And then let's dial in the whole reverb in the plate. And this is the before. After. And let's try and dial in our delay. And this is how we cannot neglect the reverb and delays. These things are the most important things to making your sound alive and to making your sound come alive. Happy mixing.